yellow roses. Dear Mishpacha and Chaverim, Ruchim Habayim. The 14 roses you see here next to me, of course, represent the 14 members of our family who we are remembering here today. We remember them with yellow roses because yellow was the color of the badges that they had to wear in the last days of their lives. And by contrast, the rose is, of course, the symbol of eternal renewal. Among all of you, there are maybe 5 or 6 people who actually met them and remember them, and vaguely at that. Over 50 years have passed since any of us saw them last, and their faces loom faintly in our minds. We would need photographs to reconstruct their faces, their mannerisms, their gestalts. I myself was 10 years old when I saw them last, and yet I feel their loss acutely every day. In Holland in those days, in the 1930s, they were not just close family, but the younger children among my cousins, namely Peretz Chaim and Dvorah, were my close playmates. And the older children among my cousins, Gittel, Sarah, and Leah, were my babysitters. And my uncles and aunts, Uncle Shmuel and Tante Manya, Uncle Yonason and Tante Paya, not to mention my grandmother Ruzha, all served as alternate parents when my own father and mother were not around to take care of me. Thus they were an integral part of my life. I was welcome in each of their homes as I was in my own. And on the Shabbat or on a Chag, I was either in my home or in one of theirs. We did not stand on any formality in those days. In our family in The Hague, in those days, you dropped in on each other, always sure that you would be welcome. So here we are, 50 years later, after they were destroyed in the Shoah, and the question remains as ever, why? We cannot possibly understand the level of hatred and inhumanity that would attempt to destroy a people simply because of their identity. Only in the case of our family, there is a double why. Why them and not us? Why were we so fortunate as to escape the Shoah? Granted, we who survived took the chance, slim though it was, and traveled clandestinely through many miles of Nazi-occupied territory to escape to Vichy France. Some of us were indeed fortunate and found immediate haven in America, and some of us were less fortunate, were forced to live in daily terror, disguised as Gentiles, again under Nazi occupation, as Vichy France was overrun by the Nazi hordes in late 1943. Some of us survived the war under great stress in Spain. But the main point is, we did survive. And here we are with our children and our grandchildren to attest to the truly important fact that Am Yisrael Chai. So, since we cannot answer the question why, and we can certainly not answer the double why, we can only be thankful that we did survive. And as part of that thanks, we need to remember those in our family who were terribly unfortunate, who over a period of 5 months in early 1943 died in Auschwitz and Sobibor. Who knows what terrors and agonies accompanied their last days on earth? Who knows what their last thoughts were as they faced their executioners? We could not even think about them because first, we were too busy ourselves trying to survive. And secondly, since information was so scarce, we did not even know what had happened to them until many years later. All we knew when the war had ended was that they were gone. It wasn't until 1980, when Malka and I were here at Yad Vashem for Tamir's bar mitzvah, that we discovered by chance in the archives the actual dates when our family died. So, we cannot pass from this planet without placing a plaque of remembrance as a tribute to their lives, to their love, to their tenderness, and this belated ceremony is to honor their memories and to say, forgive us, we left you behind. However, we did not forget you. And this plaque that we are dedicating today should be a rallying place for our family, one that we and our children can visit to attest our sorrow, our love, and our determination to go on and survive as Jews in a very hostile world. So, just as the rose keeps blooming again and again, let these 14 roses be our symbol of renewed life and the future blossoming of our mishpacha. As I cast my eyes around, I can truthfully conclude by saying, yes, Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live, the Czopp family lives, the Hasneh Einenu Uchal. We lost some of the branches, and we lost some of the leaves, but the bush itself is still there. It has not been consumed. It will continue to flower. We are strewn about in all corners of the world, but we did survive, and hopefully we shall go on as long as there is life on this earth. Amen.
Darkness, my old friend, I've come to talk with you again. Echoes the visions of the creeping, left its seeds while I was sleeping. And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of sound. In restless streets I walk alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the hollow of a street's land. I turn my collar to the cold and dead, when my eyes were stopped by the flash of the neon light that split the night, and touched the sound of silence. In the naked light I saw 6 million people, maybe more, people talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs their voices never share, and no one's there to disturb the sound of silence. And I said, you do not know, silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might reach you, take my arms that I might reach you, but my words like silent raindrops fell and echo in the well of silence.
Monsieur le rabbin Dreyfus et Madame Dreyfus, mes chères familles et mes chers amis, il y a quelques années, on n'aura pas pu savoir si on sera encore ici pour nous réunir. Grâce à mon neveu, Perry Shino, nous avons le grand honneur de nous réussir toute la famille ensemble. Et nous sommes évidemment très heureux. Et je voudrais m'adresser à mes 5 petits-enfants qui n'ont pas pu faire connaissance avec ma famille, qui sont déportés par le nazisme. Et ils ont connu personne, évidemment. Ma chère maman, Roja, était une femme extraordinaire. Une femme et une maman extraordinaire. Elle a dû faire tout toute seule pendant des années parce que son mari est revenu malade de l'armée russe, très malade, et elle a dû donc donner à ses 5 petits-enfants à manger, faire tout. Et c'était une femme dont je m'adresse à mes 5 petits-enfants, leur grand-mère, ma mère, qui était une femme extraordinaire. Il n'y a pas de mots que je pourrais dire, il n'y a pas assez de mots pour le dire. Elle n'a pas voulu aller avec nous en exode. C'est parce que son fils, le plus jeune, était un invalide. Et elle a voulu rester Czopp. Elle a voulu rester avec lui. Il était marié avec sa femme et 3 enfants. Elle n'a pas voulu le quitter. Sûrement pas. Il n'y avait rien à faire. Elle n'a pas voulu le quitter. Et comme il y a 6 millions, eux aussi sont partis, malheureusement. Ce n'est pas seulement 6 millions. Si on croit jusqu'à maintenant, combien de millions en plus aura été entre nous les Juifs? Toutes les femmes qui sont déportées vers les 40 ans, 30 ans, 20 ans, encore plus jeunes, entre mes enfants, de mon frère qui était 3 petits-enfants. Il y avait 2 filles, mon oncle et ma tante, ils ont eu 4 filles et un fils. Alors ça aurait été encore quelques millions. On aura pu être parmi nous s'il n'y avait pas ce nazisme allemand. Voilà, qu'est-ce qu'on peut dire? Tout le monde sait la même chose. Comme mon neveu Père a dit, c'est comme ça. Nous sommes contents qu'après 50 ans, qu'on a pu se réunir et voir la nouvelle famille qui sont venus après 45. Nombreux, je ne peux pas dire très nombreuses, mais on doit être content avec ça. Et je suis très heureuse de nous voir. Ils sont venus maintenant de l'Europe, de l'Amérique et de chers amis de mon neveu Père China, qui m'a réuni beaucoup de nos chers amis. Je suis très contente que lui, mon neveu Perry, qu'il a réussi à nous mettre ensemble après tant d'années. Et j'espère qu'on pourra sourire. Mes 5 petits-enfants, je voudrais le dire, j'espère qu'eux vont être plus heureux, qu'ils vont se rappeler le souvenir de toute la famille qui sont plus là. Et eux doivent parler à leurs enfants et à leurs petits-enfants plus tard. De génération en génération, ils doivent parler de ça. Beaucoup parler de ça. Se rappeler et aller pour le Shoah qui est chaque année ici en Israël est très important pour nous. Voilà, mes chers amis. J'espère que ça ne se produit plus de malheur comme ça qui est venu.
Je te remercie bien, madame.
נזכור של אבא קובר. נזכור את אחינו ואחיותינו, את בתי העיר ובתי הכפר, את רחובות העיירה שצענו כנערות, ואת הפונדק הבודד עלי אורח. את הישיש בפלסטר פניו, את האם בסודרה, את הנערה בצמותיה, את הטף, את הטף. את אלפי קהילות ישראל על משפחות האדם, את כל הדת היהודים, אשר הוכרעה לטבח על אדמות אירופה בידי הכורת הנאצי. את האיש שזעק פתאום ובזעקתו מת. את האישה שחבקה תינוקה אל ליבה וזרועותיה צנחו. את התינוק שאצבעותיו מגששות אל פטמת האם והיא כחולה וצוננת. את הרגליים שביקשו מפלט ולא היה מנוס עוד. ואת שקפצו ידיהם לאגרוף, האגרוף שחפן את הברזל, הברזל שהיה לנשק החזון, הייאוש והמרד, והם ברי הלבב, והם פקוחי העיניים, והם שהשליחו נפשם מנגד, וידם קצרה מלהושיע. נזכור את היום בצהריו, את השמש שעלתה למוקד הדמים, את השמיים שעמדו גבוהים ומחרישים. נזכור את טילי האפר אשר מתחת לגנים הפורחים. זכור אחי את מיטב, כי הנה הם מנגד לנו. הנה ניבטות עיניים סביב סביב, ואל דמי לנו עדי, יהיו חיינו ראויים לזכרם.
Hatizkor by Chaim Guri. Hatizkor, do you remember? The many faces came to me saying, do you remember? And I whispered, yes, 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 I remembered them all. And I stretched out my hands to caress them, to kiss their many wounds. And they perished and now are no more. And I sat down and called out their names one by one, because I knew them, because I had walked with them all my life.
Got to be taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught from year to year. It's got to be drawn in your dream with a veer. You've got to be careful. You've got to be taught to be afraid of people's eyes are oddly made, and people's skin is a different shade. You've got to be careful. To hate all the people you relative hate, you've got to be careful. To hate all the people you relative hate, you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful.
Our grandmother Ruzha. What can one say about a grandmother that hasn't been said before? Our entire culture paints the notion of a grandmother in faint pastels, suffused with kindness and gentleness, and sprinkled with wisdom and courage. I am sure that all these things apply to our grandmother Ruzha. They are, as we say in mathematics, a given. However, what I remember best about our Baba Ruzha were her rosy cheeks, her enchanting smile when she saw me, and the fact that she loved me unconditionally. In her eyes, I could do no wrong. This followed quite logically, since I was the oldest grandchild living with her in the same town, and thus I was the apple of her eye. I loved the meatballs she cooked for me, and I recall quite vividly how delighted I was when I was invited to dinner at her apartment, which was quite often, at least once or twice a week, but still not often enough for an 8-year-old who loved her deeply and loved her cooking just as much. Not a day went by when we didn't see each other. Often she would drop into my parents' house a mere block away just to say hello, and just as often on my way home from school did I drop in on her for the same reason. She was very hard of hearing, our grandmother Roger, and I recall quite vividly how in late 1939 and in early 40, she always insisted that I tell her the war news as it had been announced on the radio. I must confess that I was not always as gracious about it as I should have been. Forgive me, Bubba Miner, but I was only 8 years old, and even then, I was not the most patient of human beings. Our Bubba loved to play cards. My father, Chaim Olav Shalom, would say she was a verbrennte Kartenspieler, and that you could wake her up in the middle of the night, and she would be ready to play within a minute. Very often, she persuaded my father, in the middle of the day, to sit down and play a game of klaberjash with her. Our factory was on the 2nd floor, and sometime in the middle of the day, my father would come up to our living quarters on the 3rd floor and take a short break. The advantage of being the balabos, you know. I learned the game standing there and watching them both play with great concentration. I must confess that most of the time my father would win. He was a much more conservative player. Our Bubba was a chance taker and an optimist. And in klaberjash, conservatism wins out over optimism every day. However, it was that quality of optimism that must have caused her to leave Poland with our Zeta parents, after whom so many in our family are named, to move from Dembitz to Antwerp before 1910, and after being repatriated to Vienna in the early part of World War I, to return to Belgium in 1916 with 3 small children, and to do so late in her pregnancy with my dear Aunt Annie. In fact, when I grew up in Holland, it was the major family anecdote how our Bubba gave birth to Annie in a railway carriage somewhere in Germany. I believe it was Passau. And it was that optimism which caused them to move right again after the war, this time to Holland. And that's where our Bubba stayed until the very bitter end. It was that optimism that caused the 3 daughters, Annie, Eva, and my mother Sarah, that they inherited, that caused them to let their husbands go in November 1941 to find a route to escape the Nazi heavy hand. And it was that optimism which possessed them to travel alone with their children, accompanied by the woman their husbands had sent back to guide them in March of 1942. It is that optimism which has driven us, our Bubba's children and grandchildren, to travel wherever it was necessary to go, to find the wherewithal to earn our daily bread, and to achieve whatever modicum of success that we in the Czopp family have achieved. I sincerely believe that we're all here today and have survived the way we did survive because of that optimism. And even though optimism may not be a great asset in playing klaberjash, it is certainly a most desirable quality in the game of survival. Thank you, Bubba dearest, for that quality.
Butterfly. The last, the very last, so richly, brightly dazzling yellow. Perhaps if the sun's tears could sing against the white stone. Such a yellow is carried lightly way up high. It went away, I'm sure, because it wished to kiss the world goodbye. The last, the very last, so richly, brightly dazzling yellow. Perhaps if the sun's tears could sing against the white stone. For 7 weeks I lived here, penned up inside this ghetto. But I found my people here. The dandelions called to me, and the white chestnut candle in the court. Only I never saw another butterfly. The butterfly was the last one. Butterflies don't live in here.
שירים עד כאן, ניתנה לנו ארכה, עד שהזמן שלנו יעצור. היו גשמים ועוד, מה עוד אפשר לרצות, מה עוד אפשר לרצות? יפים ממני וממך, יפים ממני וממך. האדמה לקחה, שירים עד כאן, דקה אחר דקה, קצרות ואוהבות וכואבות, אבל האחרונה סופית וארוכה, סופית וארוכה. שעון השמש והחול, שעון השמש והחול, הגיעה להקה. שירים עד כאן בגובה הפסגה, גם האוויר מתחיל להיות רגיל, אבל לכם מילים עוד נשארו מילים, עוד נשארו מילים. לזכור איך שהיינו כאן, לזכור איך שהיינו כאן, שיסגר הגן. שירים עד כאן, הבכי והצחוק, קולות האנשים עוברי הזמן, השמש והים, הלחם, העולם, המר והמתוק. בכל מה שהיה נשאר, בכל מה שהיה נשאר, לחיות בתוך השיר.
היום, יותר מ-50 שנה אחרי השואה, מתכנסת המשפחה להנציח את זכרם של הקורבנות אשר נספו בשואה. סבי, יוסף צ'ופ, נולד בפולניה בשנת 1905. בהיותו ילד נדדה המשפחה להולנד. בהגיעו בגיל 23 התחתן עם סבתי בלומה שור. במהלך התקופה עבד סבי באנטוורפן כיהלומן. מאוחר יותר החל לעבוד בבריסל כסוכן מכירות אצל דודו. סבי היה אדם אהוב על כל הקהילה היהודית באנטוורפן ובבריסל. מוכן היה לעזור תמיד לכל מי שרק ביקש והיה זקוק לעזרתו. תחביבו היה משחק השחמט בו הוא הצטיין, והיה האלוף הקבוצתי במכבי אנטוורפן. כאיש משפחה למופת, מחסורם של ילדיו ואשתו עמד בראש דאגותיו. אהבתו אליהם לא ידע גבולות, והראיה לכך הייתה הקרבת חייו למען המשך חייהם. בשנת 1941, כאשר הגיעה המשטרה הצרפתית לעוצרו, סבתי התחננה שימלא דרך היציאה האחורית. סבי סירב בתוקף מתוך החשש שיעונה רע לילדיו, ויצא בראש מורם אל סופו המר. הפעם האחרונה ששמעה המשפחה מסבי הייתה דרך גלויה שנשלחה אליהם מדרנסי, ובישרה על המשך דרכו למחנה המוות אושוויץ. משם לא נודעו עקבותיו. את צוואתו וחלומו מימשה והגשימה אשתו, בלומה צ'ופ, אשר נטלה את העול המשפחתי על כתפיה החסונות, ועלתה בשנת 1945 עם 4 ילדיה לישראל. היום הוא יום חשוב ומרגש למשפחתנו. לאחר שנים רבות עומדים אנו כמשפחה מאוחדת ומנציחים את זכר הורינו וסבינו. בפעם הראשונה מזה שנים תוקם פינה בה יוזכרו שמות בני המשפחה שנספו בשואה. ברצוני, ורצון אבי, משפחתו, אחיו וכלל המשפחה, להודות מעומק לב ליוזמי הרעיון ומארגני הכנס. Thank you very much.
never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of man.
אני מאוד מתרגשת מגודל המעמד וחשיבותו. נתבקשתי על ידי פרי, שיזם את הכינוס החשוב הזה, לייצג את בני הדור השלישי ולדבר על המשפחה שלא הכרתי. יושבים כאן איתנו מי שהכירו את המשפחה והם יספרו עליה, ומי שחוו את השואה הנוראה וניצלו ממנה, וביניהם סבתי חנה, שבעוד 5 ימים ימלאו לה 80 שנה, עד 120. כל המשפחה יחד מסביב היא ההוכחה שהגיהנום עבר, אנחנו שרדנו, הצלחנו לגדול מחדש, וזאת עלינו להעריך יותר מכל. עכשיו כשאני בעלת משפחה משלי, אם ל2 ילדים, אני מבינה הרבה יותר את חשיבות המשפחה ואת נורא מכל איבוד המשפחה. אנו בני הדור הצעיר שלא חווה את השואה הנוראה, אלא שמע ולמד עליה, מחויבים לזכור ולא לשכוח, להזכיר וללמד את הדורות הבאים את שעבר על המשפחה ועל העם היהודי בכלל. בסוגיה הדנה בקיומה של מדינת ישראל, עם ובלי השואה, מתחבטים היסטוריונים רבים. אך אין ספק שהשואה זרזה את תהליך הקמת המדינה. לדעתי, מדינת ישראל הייתה קמה גם אולי מלחמת העולם השנייה, והשואה שעברה על העם היהודי. ואז היינו יכולים לעמוד בירושלים כמשפחה הרבה יותר גדולה, ולחגוג אירוע משמח כשהמולת ילדים, שיחות מבוגרים ומוזיקה שמחה נשמעים ברקע. אך אנו כאן היום, בירושלים, במקום הקדוש והשקט הזה. דממה סביבנו, כי לא באנו לחגוג היום, אלא לזכור את אלה שאינם איתנו, סבים וסבתות, אחים ואחיות, אמהות ואבות, שיד מרושעת לקחה אותם באכזריות, לקחה לבלי שוב. אנו מצווים לזכור את כולם, ובכל אחד מאיתנו יש מקום בלב, לזכור את אותם אלה שאינם איתנו. ואני כנציגת הדור הצעיר מבטיחה שלא נשכח. זיכרון השואה הולך איתנו תמיד. אחותי הצעירה יעל, בנסיעתה למצעד החיים בפולין, תיעדה עבור כולנו את אשר חוותה שם. אודים, שפירושו עצים שניצלו משרפה,
זיכרון השואה יום-יום. במושב הורים, כידוע לכולכם, גרה גליה ומשפחתה, ושכנות אליהם נמצא הגן של טל, בני הבכור. ועכשיו במעמד זה, אנו מנציחים את זכר המשפחה שלא הכרנו לדורי דורות. והמסר החשוב מכל הוא לזכור ולא לשכוח, כדי שמקרים כמו השואה לא יחזרו על עצמם, ונדע להעריך את החיים היפים שיש לנו, את מדינת ישראל ואת המשפחה הגדולה והנהדרת הזו. I am very touched to stand here in front of all of you, coming from all around the world. I hope we will have this opportunity to meet again in the near future for happier occasions. Thank you very much.
תודה.
בצרור החיים עתינו לחרטה וכאן אילן תהא מנוחתם.
Let us all recite the Kaddish together. It's on the last sheet that was handed out to you as part of the program. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shnei Rabba, B'yalma, B'vrach, B'yutei, B'yamim, Malchutei, B'chayechon, B'yomechon, B'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agala, B'zman Karim, V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shnei Rabba Mevarach V'yalam L'olnei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'al V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yitale V'yitalal Shnei Kedusha B'richu V'yela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata V'yamiram V'yalma V'yimru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom Nimromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
Dear 14 yellow roses, dear Rosa, Yosef Yitzchak, and Samuel Balamut Czopp, dear Manya Wilk and Peretz Chaim Tessel, Jakob Sil, Balamut Czopp, Jonathan Fry, Samuel Lea Gittel, Sarah, and Vora Leibel. Monsieur le Grand Rabbin, Madame Dreyfus, dear family and friends, why we are all here together in Yad Vashem today has been sufficiently well explained to you by the initiator and organizer of this ceremony, my dear cousin Perry Shainok, as well as by Hannah, Tzvika's son, and Sandrine, who accepted to represent all the generations related to the 14 yellow roses we honor today. However, as it is often common among Jews, I would also like to ask a question. And the question I would like to raise and share with you is, why have we waited so long, that is more than 50 years, to offer to our 14 regretted family members the grave the Nazis intentionally refused to grant them? Why have we kept silent for so long? Why? Pourquoi? Warum? Favus? Lama. And lama is a word my 2.5 years old grandson, Guy, keeps asking to me and to anyone about anything new he encounters. Since childhood, we all love to ask questions, even if we don't always receive an answer. And like my mother Hannah did to her grandchildren a few minutes ago, I too would like to try to give my little grandson Guy an answer to a question he has not asked yet. Why thus is it only today that we succeeded to break that wall of silence the German Nazis had built over and around the souls of our 14 yellow roses and the millions of others who burned with them? Better now than never is not good enough an answer. Is it because we were till now indifferent to what had happened to them? Certainly not. Every one of us knows he has tragically lost a large part of his family during the Shoah, and every one of us has been deeply concerned by such cruel deprivation. Is it then because we thought we had better and more important things to do? Certainly not. And the best evidence for it we have in the fact that as soon as Perry Shainok suggested the idea of that tombstone in Yad Vashem, we all responded yes immediately. And here we are, all of us from various parts of the world to attend the inauguration of this matzeva. Why it has taken us so long to implement that great idea Perry Shainok proposed us has, I believe, something to do with the parable of the burning bush he reminded us of. When your house is in fire, you first run away for your life, as far as possible from the danger. Then you gather your efforts to build yourself a new home. You certainly do not forget the old one. On the contrary, you try to regain what you have lost and to make things for your family as happy as they were before. That is what my father Eddie, and among others, my uncles Chaim Shainok, Izzy Kunstlicher, and my aunt Bluma did for us. And that takes time. As it takes time for the burning bush to to give new leaves, new flowers, and eventually new fruits that will remind you of the sweet taste the old fruits had before your house burned. As it took time for Steven Spielberg to thank all the Oscar Schindlers for their heroic acts. As it takes time for a deep wound to cicatrize, to the crust to fall. And it is only when you can contemplate your scar without shivering that you can try to explain to yourself and to your grandchildren how happy and lucky you are to have been able to survive to your wounds while others you loved could not. Some, wrongly, may even have felt guilty for being so lucky, while the only ones to blame are those who sadistically lit the fire. Therefore, in the name of all you present here, would I like to ask our 14 yellow roses to understand us and forgive us for having kept their names for 50 long years in the intimate darkness of our hearts. Dear Rosa, Yosef Yitzchak, and Samuel, Balamut Czopp, Manya Wilk, and Peretz, Chaim, Pesel, Jacob Seal, Balamut Czopp, Jonathan, Pai, Samuel, Leah, Gittel, Sarah, and Dvorah Leibel, to all of you, Slicha. Seid uns Meuchel, vergeef ons, pardonnez-nous notre longue convalescence. This engraved plaque is the end today of the silent night for you. The Nazis had planned to annihilate you into the anonymous ashes that covered the soil of Auschwitz, Sobibor, and God knows which other extermination camps. Even the monument erected by Poland on the camp of Birkenau does not remind to the world that you were Jews. And let us not speak of the insulting cross the Carmelites planted on your ashes until we will have done everything we can to remove it. From today on, you have recovered your names and joined us in the daylight of the Jewish land of Israel. We have now a tombstone where we, our children, and the future generations can mourn each one of you, memorize your names, or simply meditate and promise ourselves that never such a disaster will hit our people again. Matzada lo tipol shenit. May you now rest in peace. Chanuchu v'shalom. Amen.
Amen.
finishes the formal portion of the program. But before you leave, I have a few final words to say, and I hope you forgive me. These are words of appreciation, and I think at this occasion ends, they must be uttered. First, of course, I wish to show my appreciation to all those people who participated in the program today. I also wish to thank Yaakov and Nava, who are and have been associated with Malka School in Los Angeles. I also would like to give special thanks to all the cousins who have contributed to the plaque, all those who are here, Ruti, as well as my children, Diane, Nancy, Shalva, and Tamir. I wish to give special thanks. We cannot go on without my giving special thanks to Pepita. I admit it was my plan, but it was she who executed it here and dealt with Hashem day in, day out, so that we have a reality here. Finally, I would like to thank my dearest wife, Malka, who came up with the leitmotif, the principal theme, V'hasneh lo enenu uchal. It pays to have married a Torah scholar. Many other thanks to Eric, whose computer savvy helped us with the printing of the program and the adjunct package that each of you received. My final comment relates to what Tamir has been doing. Tamir has been videotaping this hour, and for those of you who are interested, we will have a videotape for you, and if you want one, let me know, and we'll make sure that it gets shipped to you. Thank you. Shalom uvracha. Now, the family has been invited to have dinner at Mitzadonet, which is on the Midrachov, on 12 Yael. It is across the street from Cheesecake. I'm sure all of you know where Cheesecake is. Those of you who don't know, follow us.